So Leo, you can share your screen.
Non, pas tout de suite.
I'll just give us a second, sorry.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, perfect. Hold on.
I just have to say I'm so excited to see all these new faces. Steve, you're there.
Yes.
Zane, you're there, and yeah, and Taylor, yeah, a lot of you haven't seen me for the first time. So cool. Okay, I'll shut up now.
No, for sure, it's all good. So welcome everyone. I think if other people hop on, they'll going on to the discussion. But welcome everyone that is here. We appreciate your time in advance. Thank you so much for interconnecting all these minds, ideas, individuals into moving forward into this direction. So I really do appreciate you from the bottom of my heart personally. For the topic today, it would be Leo and Alexander or Alexandre, if I'm not mistaken.
Alexander.
Alexander. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I do apologize. First, it will be their presentation for the subject of transition. Like I said, you could also get that information on our Facebook page. And please, at the end of it, just do not interrupt the presenter or the presenters. We do appreciate that if you take that into consideration. And then after, we will have a group discussion with all of us that still has enough time to make it. We'll have a group discussion at the end of this with different ideas, different proposals, any information or knowledge that you may want to add to what they are presenting right now.
Raul, can I say one thing? Stephanie just sent a message. Taylor and Frederick and Steve, could you mute your microphone? There's a, in your bottom left screen, you see a microphone? Great, great. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we got that.
Ah, ok, ça y est. Bonjour.
For sure. For sure, and if you would like to start, Alexander and Leo, you may do so.
Okay, so Leo, share your screen. Okay. So today we're going to present you how to start from here to where we want to go towards a RBE economy. First, we can present. I'm Alex from Quebec. I study electrical engineering, and I am currently working in a nuclear and particle physics research laboratory. My colleague Leo can present himself. I think are you mute, Leo?
Won't be long.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello, I'm Leo too. I'm studying in electrical engineering, and my developments focus on system engineering. Okay,
so we understand that this presentation can be dense, and by dense I mean like every sentence and every word are there and contain a lot of information. So we will more like touch every single point, and then through feedback and discussion and more documentation, you can have a better view in details of every one of those. So I would suggest like take notes for stuff you don't understand, and then or you disagree or you want to challenge. So yeah, a solid starting base which emphasizes on technical and social aspects through gradual isolation and project-based development.
Basically, we'll be defining the needs, the feasibility, and the structural and architectural design of a new society from a technical perspective and social engineering point of view using the scientific method. First of all, I know a lot of people usually focus on an isolationist view of resource-based economy. They want to build a big system that's isolated from the present system. But we think that's not really feasible and unrealistic, mainly because of four problems: complexity, lack mean of financing, motivation, and isolation. With the first one, complexity, a big scale project like that is really complex and hard to design system. It's require a lot of planning, and from the get-go, it's not really possible to implement. Like any engineering project, things are really different when you play them than how you planned it. So complete instantaneous mobilization of all the mean and the people is unpractical and unrealistic. It's really hard to implement something and hope to have it working as you designed it.
Yeah, so as like we say, R&D project, what you do when you want to do iterative design is you design it so if you want to change, for example, if you notice with statistical analysis that a certain type of architecture is not the most efficient, but then if you have designed it in order that it can be modified, it's much easier. That's why you have to start with a small town, a learning town, and then you increase in size as you learn. Yeah, the adaptation on small skills projects is the most important.
Okay, so after complexity, lack of means of financing. This is important too because setting up a complete society needs to have all basic needs covered. So food, shelter, transport, everything has to be provided. And all of those services cost a lot of resources and manpower. So it's really hard to think it can be implemented. We don't have, personally, we don't have that much resources. So if you want to build something big and that change society, it can't be done from scratch.
Yeah, like it's really environmental friendly and cost efficient just because of the economy of scale. For example, you produce a product and the first one you produce costs you 100% of what all the infrastructures around it cost. And as you produce more and more, it resources. I think it's a basic concept, but it's really an advantage to produce stuff, to make money out of it, to buy those resources just because they are produced in so big scale that they are efficiently, they are resource-wise efficient for you. So, and as you go, yes, you can start producing your own things, but at the start it's too complex. So you rely on the human engineering. This can let you having access to all of the knowledge we currently use in the world.
Yes. So after that, isolation, some people want to completely isolate themselves, but some basic needs and services that are provided by the society itself, like internet, healthcare, sewers, and complex services are really hard to implement. You can't build your own internet because you're gonna lose on what's out. You really have to understand that those services can't be abandoned. You really have to include them and through a connection with society, because people in general, they won't follow a project if it's not easier for them. And they just want their life to be easier. So if we really want this to grow to big scale, we have to understand this. It's important to gain traction through the facility of life that we're gonna bring.
Yeah, so that's why most eco-community and small community projects never went to big scale because people have to sacrifice too much. Like Jean Fresco and all the Venus project as a good work in that field. When you go away from scarcity, you can get away from those aberrant behavior. So what you have to do is go towards abundance and access. With that, we know that you can provide motivation. If people, they don't need to work, but they have a high standard of living, they will be more motivated to go towards projects, and it will be easier to manage in a big scale. So that's why we must give up no standard of living. The core point of it is providing accessibility to people.
And two, motivation, because if you cut yourself from outside society, it would ask to too much devotion. People have to be completely devoted to the cause because they will be disconnected from people, friends, family, and culture. So some
Thanks.
people will lose motivation if for too long they have to focus on this project and be cut from our society. They will lose motivation and they won't be part of the project anymore. So we have to conclude on that. So everything, a lot of people have tried to implement a RBE system or a money-free system, but it never reached global scale. And their reason because of that, principally what we went through. So, but those problems are surmountable. And if we analyze them through logical thinking and scientific reasoning, we think we have arrived to a system or design that will solve those problems with what we've designed.
Okay. Next. Okay, so here's the plan of the presentation. As you can see, can be dense, but we're going to go through what can be the interface between the society and the outside world through a company, all the importance of life change by reducing resources consumption and like giving up, for example, property going towards accessibility, feasibility through communal living, optimization, minimal state income, and specialization and efficiency. This is, for example, you don't need one toilet per person. So as you go up in scale, you can gain resource efficiency with that. The very important of automation. You have problem when you have to, for example, do a task, but we have to, like Jacques Fresco say, hire ourselves to higher beings to pursue higher things. So you get rid of all those. This is all Venus Project standard knowledge. So, also, how the architectural design and transport and delivery system can be implemented in a small scale system. Yes, as you grow, you go more toward Venus Project design, but at the start, it's not efficient at all to produce it. Progressive removal of the grid, how social connection are mainly focused on through a digital application, and how the education system will work in this transition society. So, okay, so how you start is you have a multidisciplinary company as an interface. So basically, everyone in the city are like employees of the company. The company, what they do is that they provide shelter, entertainment, food, and high standard of living. If you want to do projects, the company allow you resources to do them. We will see how does it work later. And this is really multidisciplinary. So you want to do a brewery, you want to do music, you want to do engineering, no matter what, there are ways to make money out of it. And even though, like you know that only 5 to 10% of people are really useful to society, the rest is all waste of resources and manpower, for example, with all the monetary system. And this is all TVP standard knowledge. So the challenge is to be free from ownership. So how you start a company is that people invest in it and then they end up possessing the majority of your company. So that's why you have to auto found yourself. So maybe with past project or create a company before, or with collecting money. We will see how a project approach would be efficient, and also a gradual transitioning to cryptocurrencies. Because as the company expand, you don't want to encourage the monetary system, and you want to get rid of all the banking middlemen. So going towards cryptocurrency is a good way to do it as a transition. Like the only difference with the usual business models is the yellow circle that you see, which is we believe that if you provide people accessibility, then they can. Okay, next.
So, of course, some changes in life habits will have to happen, even in the small community. So first, waste reduction. So investment in durable tools and equipment, like, for example, an aluminum glass instead of glasses that are easy to break and cost a lot more. Technically, just investing in things that are more durable, but may cost a little more. Because in the long run, it will be more efficient. Technical recycling, reusing things, using waste as new resources. For example, the toilet that Bill Gates designed that recycle wastes, human wastes, into fertilizers and combustion propellant. Of course, we're gonna have to give up on physical property to move toward access-based systems. just because it's more efficient and really much more cost savings. And social inclusion, we will have to include more of the others, to be open to others' discussions, and just in general be inclusive.
Okay. So this is, like, I will not go in that much. Oh, I see we don't see the entire thing because of the people. I don't know if you can. Okay, yeah, you can move that.
Okay.
Yeah, and put it on the bottom. So this is the overview functioning of the society. It may be dense, but we can do a quick overview. So basically, the red lines are the main injection of money, and the orange line are the intermediate injection of money and resources. As you can see, you have the company at the center, and then on the right, you can see that you have the society and the human resources, which are the people that are at the very core and the center of the society. What you have, let's start with the left. So you have the monetary market environment. What we can do is you can exchange goods and services through the company. So you can also have, for example, a steady income. If you live close to a city, you can have like autonomous car bringing you to work. And then with only a minimal steady income, you can sustain this type of society and bring what you can. For example, if a lot of people work in the same city, then they can work in the autonomous car if you can provide them internet. So it doesn't matter if you have to do an hour and a half of traveling, but this is minor details. What you see on the top is efficiency purchasing of required goods in big bulk. And what you do is you do a lot of data acquiring and it's a statistic. Like you will see later how it can be efficient. So there are two types. You can request resources for infrastructures, like inhabitation enhancement or project like laboratories and stuff. And you have resources for intern projects. So what someone do, and then the resources are allowed to you, and then the people, they give the manpower to it. If the project you're doing can be profitable for society, then you can directly implement to make people benefit from it. If there is a market or outreach partnership possibility, then we can pair up you with a project management a team, and then we can inject additional money to build more infrastructure. So since this is a direct investment, from a business point of view, it doesn't matter. Those resources are going to be allowed. So if you do a project, for example, you design a motor drive or anything, and then you want to create a laboratory to work towards that, then the thing you are generating, they are generating money to build more infrastructure to sustain the people that will work on project and enjoy their life better. Like we say, the higher standard of living you have, the better people have motivation. So like you see, the project can, through the direct investment, build new infrastructures. Every one of those boxes, there are many more information about it, but this is more of an overview, so you can pinpoint later. So Statistic Canada showed how people spend like 50% of everything they own just for shelter, food, and transportation. We really believe that if you can do efficient management of this, you can save a lot of resources and allow. Oh, and I forgot something really important. There was the red line that shows how everyone has a small salary, because basically you are still connected to the outside world, and we think that traveling and, for example, go see your family and stuff, it's a really important part of life. But if you don't spend money, okay, you can go back to the next slide. If you don't spend money on or resources on food, shelter, or anything you need, then this can be used for anything you want, like, but mainly traveling. Okay, next. So this is how it will work from a resource management point of view. Basically, you have the employee budget, which is like resources, through data collection and statistical analysis. For example, machine learning and big data statistical analysis. You provide food, shelter, and transportation. So a study has shown that if you use, for example, organic food, buying in big bulk, you can save up to 93% of the cost. So by providing it, and then with analysis, you can see what is used, what is not, with the prevention date, everything automated. Also, you will see how you have to produce your food inside of the society, like with aeroponic, hydroponic, permaculture, and even conventional agriculture, but for a lot of stuff at the start, you don't have all of this. So you have to rely on this. Also, what you do is the company also provide entertainment for projects. Everything is going towards a sharing system. So for example, people have cars and then they use them 5% of the time. 95% of the time it's either parked at your place or parked somewhere, so it's completely useless. What you have is you provide, for example, outdoor gear. So then you have a storage place where you can do a request through the app that you want this gear, and then you can go and take it, like Jacques Fresco explained all of this. And then when you are over, you take it back there. For example, musical instruments. You can take musical instruments and then you want to change. So everything go towards sharing. And by doing that, you can provide high quality equipment for everyone. And for example, if you have several cities and there are too much TVs on this city, then you can do resource exchange. And we really think with data acquiring, you can optimize this to work better. Yeah. So example of project for income, which is just for fun, like we say, everyone is an employee, but you don't have any schedule, you don't have anything. It's just you do it if you want. For example, software developer, we think it's a really useful tool at the start because you don't need that much resources and you can produce a lot of external projects. What you can do towards hydroponic system automation design, sell fresh grown organic and environmental friendly food. You want to do a brewery, you want to produce music, then we can create a label for you, and then etc.
Yeah, or another example is tourism would be a really good source of income, because you just think about people will want to visit the new system we try to create, and for a small cost they'll be sheltered, nourished, and everything. They will have access to the same other things that others do, and if it's basically going to be used as a publicity for external system. Of course, 2 online courses, because with the technical knowledge of people working in that company, it's going to be easy to outsource that knowledge to projects. 2, what we expect to see in the system is a relative growth in efficiency over time, following an exponential growth, because as you make things better, things are getting better at getting better. So it should go exponentially fast. 2, we have this concept of sustainability cost, basically what it costs us to sustain one individual. At the start, it's going to be high. It's going to cost us a lot to take someone new in the company and provide for him. But as the time goes on, as we automate things and we make things easier, and as we add more people, it's going to cost us less and less to sustain someone. And the line, the orange line that you see is the poverty line. So basically, at which point you're considered poor. Well, if the sustainability cost drops below the poverty line, it basically means that anyone can join the company and be productive and gives us more money. It's basically the system that nations have tried to implement, but we don't have are cheap. So
okay, so a quick summary of that. It's through a minimal income and specialization and efficiency, it can be done. So this project can be started either from 2 people and 2 to 5 people, or like 25 to 30 people. For example, what 2 persons will do, they will buy a house for $300,000 each, and then with, for example, $600,000 through design and using modern technology, you can provide it for like 25 people only for the cost of 2. So that's why it's really doable at that scale if you design it for a small scale project. Specialization, by this I mean providing high quality equipment. So instead of everyone having 1 kitchen in every house, you provide a big kitchen with better tools. If this is done and is done properly, so that you can give access to people, then at the end of the day, everyone has access to high quality equipment. And if there are not enough equipment, like we said, you just buy more. for example, you see how 3 bathrooms for 6 people is more efficient than 2 bathrooms for 4 people, because the statistical chance that, for example, someone is using it decrease. So it's not it's not a linear thing. So as you have more and more people, you can have less and less goods, and people will have more accessibility to it. Yeah, by speciality, and also, like we said, 5% of the time you're using something. If you go away from that, you can save a lot of resources. Going also towards prefabricated housing design for efficiency, for example, 3D printed house. We'll go in more details later. And what you want is, you don't want something to be standard and like everyone is the same. It's like Jean Fresco say, you can do what you want in your own personal house. You can choose from designs, and interior designer can make it good, appealing, also for tourism, but also just for people to be happy. So, but for that, you need a steady income. What you don't need is an exponential growth.
Okay, so from a technical standpoint, it's 3 points we must focus on and that are important to the implementation. So, of course, a technical automation, that means automation of jobs that are not fun to do, and just things that are non-desirable for people focusing on. So everything like food, cuisine, everything that can be automated will be automated to reduce what people have to do. That will, of course, reduce the minimal required rentability of newcomers and the minimal sustainability cost. Social automation, basically, we will bring it through the project-based app that we will later discuss, but really bringing people together in order to create better living standards and a better general happiness. And of course, the open source platform, everything has to be open to the public and hosted on public servers on site. This will reduce the risk of resource waste as well as bias development. For example, it's more efficient to have an open source platform. If someone wants to work on a project during their free time or help on a project, they have every resource and every information that they need to do that. So that will basically be brought through project-based organization. So pretty much every part of society can be brought and seen through a project-based point of view. It allows for continuous iterative amelioration. Basically, you can make things better and better as you go. And it's really a driving force that pushes you forward and gives a better sense of community through the realization of those projects.
And it's also easier to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are design draft for architectural design. So what you do is you use printed house. For example, there is this company that can print you a 12-meter square house in concrete for $10,000. So, and if like you can rent some of them, and it's in 24 hours. So by doing that, you greatly reduce the cost of shelter. So what you do, you save time. You can make them adaptable. You can redo a design as the city grows. You can do different design at different places. That's why we are not sure, because prefabricated house passed to a certain quantity are really, really efficient. Like you can produce them into factories, but 3D printed house, they are so adaptable that we think we have to go through that, but more analysis will have to be done. And it's mainly for the scalable. Once you reach a big enough scale, and then your design are completely like kind of perfect, let's say, because you've learned from all the past city, then we think that prefabricated house will take over. Yeah, and what you want to do is you want to have multifunctional areas. So for example, this is a draft of in-habitation design, and all of this to be cost efficient. So basically, as you can see on the left, you remove, so what you have in your house, you don't have like, for example, a bathroom or stuff, but you have access to a bathroom. You don't have a personal cuisine, your kitchen, you have, in fact, you have anything that you want in your small hub. And then you have what we call the center hub. So this is a 2-story hub and also circular design, just because it's more efficient, like you know. For example, and then you provide kitchen, cafeteria, common space. What you have to generate your heat is you have computer and server rooms that they can work towards cryptocurrency. You can let the computing power, you can rent this to company, you can use them inside. For example, people that want to play video games or anything, they have access to those systems. And the heat that is generated is used to warm the water and to heat up. So that way you don't lose resources and you don't have to make electricity go to a resistor and just lose heat that way. We believe in privacy. So if yes, you don't have a bathroom in your place, but then you go there and they have standalone place with doors that you can go and close and be. But that way, like you can see, you don't need to provide as many as you will have if you put them in every single. For example, you have hobby spaces that you can, I don't know, play music or whatever. And then at the second floor, you have like working area, because at the start, you have only those small hubs and they will be really cost efficient. They will be super cheap. So then you can work on your project there, but you will see as you will grow that bigger hub will be created. Also, for example, you have private multimedia and common space multimedia. You have like a theater room, but if you want to just watch TV or watch Netflix, then you go there and then through the app, you can see what is available. And then with data collection, you can see what is used, what is not, and then adapt for that. What you have left. So I think, yeah, and all of this has to be embedded with the environment, of course. It can be scalable. So as you will increase in size, you will go more toward Venus project-based architecture. But this is really cost efficient. So that's why that's why you have to do a small town at first, and then learn from it. And then when you are to do the second town, you can use all your knowledge to a new design to go towards it. For example, yeah, go back to the.
Sorry.
So you can see that an hydroponic and storage system can sustain 3 hubs. So it can be efficient in that way. Yes, I think it's obvious that you produce your own food internally. What you have is you go toward automation and domotics. So, for example, you want to cook something, and then you go on an app, you say I want to cook that, and then they say, oh, this is what you need, and then it can pinpoint exactly where in the hydroponic farm the veggies are available, so you can go there and pick them. You can do stock management. You don't need to store the food if it's growing constantly, so this is a really efficient storage system. Also, as you increase, you can have bigger hubs for gyms and stuff, and outside the area you have like agricultural lands or in parks, but those we can be discussed more in details. So this is really important to understand that this is a scalable adaptation. So as you go with more resources, then you change, because like we said, the 3D printed may not be the more efficient as you grow in size. Yeah, the design will adapt. I think I said everything in that. Oh yeah, a food specialized center, for example, you can go to a Thai restaurant. What they do is they are super efficient at producing Thai food. So then you can have some of those hubs distributed in the city, and then with autonomous car and system delivery, you can bring food to people and even automate food. But this is another discussion that we can talk about. All with autonomous car. Yeah, and the transport system, we don't want anyone to drive cars because it's not safe and it's way not efficient. So that's why we go more towards autonomous general network. And all of this, yeah. So as people don't have to work for money, there will be a big space empty. So the social connection are highly encouraged. So what you want to do is to pair people that have connections together. For example, they want to play music, then they go, I don't know if you know the app Meetup, but it's like this. So you say what you want, what you like, and then it can propose you events and have notifications. For example, people that want to hike, then they can pair up with people to go do travel, play music, etc. Art production, and then this can allow better project advancement, because people that are together, they can discuss and improve. Yeah, and public space, and yeah, you have to need a lot of events to keep people together. So like music shows, you have a place where you can meet people. And oh yeah, and mentoring for project is highly promoted. So if you're working on something and then there are people interested, then sharing your knowledge and make them work with you will be a lot more effective than just writing documents. Yeah.
Okay, so basically we were talking a lot about an app, but what we intend to develop is basically an app that connects the users, the project, the society, and the resources and information that are available. Mostly it will regulate the social interactions of the people living in the system. So bringing everyone together. It will be brought up by a personal profile that links you to everything that you've done, everything that you've been connected to, every project you've worked on, every resources you used is going to be completely available. Project creation by individual, by users. This will allow to drive forward and connect people together through social interactions. Everything of the society will be brought up by the app. So every transport that you can ask for, every resources that you ask for will be asked through the app. Of course, it will also provide open access to every information and resources that you could need, basically connected to the server. It will take the form of kind of global app that will provide every information, every possible part of society. So we have an example of a user diagram, but basically how this works is, for example, to take earlier example, you want to go hiking. Well, you can. You just create, someone is drawing, but you create a project. You say, well, I want to go hiking. Okay, I want to go that date. You create the project, the interface uploads it and asks the servers for resources. Like we need 1 car to go there. Then the project is approved and the project is proposed to other users. So everyone can see on the app, well, I can go hiking. If they want, they just click and they go toward, they click on the app, they say, I want to. And if enough people want to, well, it's confirmed and the resources are allocated to them. And it's set and the car reserved and everything. So this works too for food creation. So for example, someone want to cook dinner for 5 person. Well, okay, he go on the app and say what he's gonna cook and for how many people and what he needs. The resources are checked and approved, and then everyone see that this meal is disponible. So they say, hey, I want to eat that. So they click, and the project is approved, and the kitchen is reserved for them, and they have access to it, and it's done. So it really is in the optic of easing connection, social connection, and optimization. This can be used for renovation, social gatherings, everything that you can think of can be seen through this project-based development.
Yeah, and I just want to add something. For example, you know how cooking for 5 people or for 20 people is not that much more. So as you go to the targeted user, yeah, so then you can see how many people they want you. So then you can adapt, for example, your recipe or anything to sustain more people. And just to mention that this is the same functioning for any project, like engineering project or human science project, anything. Okay, so how the education will have to work? We don't want the education to be like, this is TVP basic knowledge, but it's not a thing that you do for a day. It's more something that is included in your everyday life. So what you do is you build a strong online-based platform with like that people can create courses and lecture and stuff. If you want to learn of a certain subject, you can subscribe, and then you have documents that are sent to you, videos, and then you can be linked to people that can be the mentors for you, and then you can be involved in project. Everything is project approach. So basically, the student or / resident is in the center and have access to the resources he wants to learn. Also, I think that we see a lot in engineering is that they make you work on a really big project, and then at the end of the day, they scrap this project. So what you want to do is make people learn dynamically, and then through working on something, then you can practice your knowledge. And if it turns out that what you do works, then it can be directly implemented. So this is what you have. But this works for any field. Psychology, you want to work with children, you can go and assist to class and work directly in contact with humans. The only thing that will be basic is the center core cultural value system, so like self-critique, scientific method, and everything that is a value system for Venus project. But we can go in more in detail. This is more like an overview presentation.
About the production of energy, of course, it's going to cost a lot to isolate completely yourself. So initially, we'll start from the grid, but allow for a gradual transition to renewable sources like solar, wind, geothermal, and so. For now, the best energy that there is solar, because the cost is rapidly descending and getting better and better by the day. Just a small graph to show approximately what it's about. We see that it's an exponential decreasing. So we think I put some numbers here. It's between 14 to 18 for $1,000 for an household. Basically, it's really good right now, but it's going to get better and better with the years. And of course, possibility of savings when you store energy for gradual uses, and globalization of energy will bring low cost and efficiency to the system. Okay.
So, and also that's why we think, for example, a country like Canada or any social country are a good place to start, because everything is so cheap and available for you. We are heading to the end slowly. So mid to big scale implementation, as we said, as you increase in scale, you change your design and adapt it more for Venus project, because as we have reviewed all the documentation, it's really well designed, even though there are certain points we disagree with. But I think with a reasonable and scientific method, they can be changed. What you need to do also is, so like you create a small town and then increase in size as you learn. And at the end, what you want is, like Jacques say, it's a final product. It's a design thing that everything is interconnected and everything is designed to have multifunctional, to be multifunctional and to be used for several purposes. Also, we really think that you need to be a multinational past a certain point, because if you reach a certain scale and then you become a kind of a threat for the monetary system, then they have more resources than us. They have everything that for example, to screw this up. But if you are multinational, then you can compete with them. So if you have sales all around the world in several countries, then you are no longer a slave of politics. So that way you can grow. And like we said, as you grow, you isolate yourself more and more, and so you start producing your own goods, and so you are moving away from the monetary system to finally end up in a big scale. But even at the start, everyone in this society inside, they don't have any interaction with money. They just have everything they need, and they just live their life. It's just for a company point of view that there is still a connection.
So that's reached the end of the conclusion.
So we understand that this is dense in the sense that all of those subjects we just present them and not really go to details, but they have been discussed and we have answers for almost all of them. And for the one that we don't, we are more than open to discuss. Who do we need? Like, we need people to be involved in all the different fields, for example, of science, human science, or art, culture, anything. What do we want is, so we present it to you because we want you to challenge it or certain points. So we can go through discussions, but also if you have pinpoint, you can write what you understand from the point you want to talk about, and then what you disagree or want to challenge or bring, and then we can answer. So by being more structured, like it's not, for example, if you say something that you disagree, but then we see that you don't understand the thing, that it's going to be not efficient. So we really think through feedback, this is how you can have a better understanding of this. So, and no need to be polite.
So
Thanks.
That's basically it. So thank you all for listening. And I think we're now moving to the sharing period or something like that. Charlotte or Raul?
Raul, are you there?
Thank you so much for that presentation. I was just like taking it all in. It was amazing. Me personally, I loved it a lot. I really do. I really appreciate you guys. I really appreciate you, Alexandre and Leo, for presenting that. And if anyone has any questions regarding the overview right now, please briefly introduce yourself, because we do have new people that are hopping on. Before you want to either ask a question or give feedback on anything, just please introduce yourself before you ask anything that you want to. But anybody would like to ask anything, please, the floor is yours.
Can I start out?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I took notes like you guys suggested. And I've got a lot of questions, so just shut me up when it gets to be too much. The first thing I want to be clear on, you're talking about setting up these small towns in times of peace, right?
Yeah.
In times of peace, we can...
In times of peace. So we're not in any kind of crisis situation. You're thinking of going from transition from now, say, until we get into a full global RBE, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. One question, iterative design, what does that mean?
That means starting for a point and basically having feedback on what you're doing, seeing things as they go on and be able to correct them. So, for example, you make a program, you write the code, then you test it, you say what's good, what's bad about it, you test it with users, and you correct it, you redesign it. So it's really a cycle of redesign through iterative development.
Yeah, like for example, those 3D printed house, like we say, the first design for this type of city is, but then if you figure out that, I don't know, the public multimedia center are not used, then you can adapt your design further.
Yeah,
But
I've got that. So iterative, I've never heard it used like that, so that was the question. And you also said iterative amelioration. What's that?
Basically the same thing.
Okay. You also mentioned unadvantageous in the reasons why it wouldn't be too good to start out small. What did you mean by unadvantageous?
Basically, it's that at the start, it's not efficient to produce everything yourself because of economy of scale and big factories that already exist. So yourself, at the start, it's more efficient to use money to buy those things.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
And also from an environmental point of view, you don't want to build a big factory to produce something if someone is already doing it. So you have to make use of all the human power and knowledge in order to make you transition, because you want to be cost effective if you go from here to there. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry to take up so much time, but these are short questions. By traction, you mean progress?
By traction, I meant that we take from where we are, so a little company, and add more and more people. So growing scale, yeah.
Yeah. Then I get to a sort of big question about the whole human values thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned at the beginning that in order to do this, there has to be a lot of motivation. And I can really imagine this, because I think if you're doing this during a peacetime situation, the pull of, let's say, the life outside, plus any possible political difficulties that you talked about later in the problem, is going to be something to really be concerned about. So how do you want to address reforming human values?
Yeah, so as we say, two things. So first, at the start, it's where it's really sensitive, so that everyone in the society have to have a really broad understanding of the Venus Project values that are not the Venus Project values, but those just like sharing knowledge and self-critique and stuff. So you won't act as a way, but as you go, you can accept more and more people. And also, like we said, and I think we were really clear on that, is you have to make it more convenient to people. So since you're doing it in the peacetime where people have already their life outside, if the life inside is just better, then this is how you will attract people. So this is how I will answer your questions, by providing a bit higher living standards to them.
But you would not do anything specific, let's say, about shaping human values? You just let that happen naturally?
No. Like we said it in the education, you have a core. For example, all newcomers have a series of lectures to attend, and then they have group discussions. Like, yeah, it's really important that they understand this. So yeah, you have classes and lectures about this. Yeah, it's in fact one of the most important things. So it's good that you mentioned it.
Okay, 2 more questions and then I'll shut up. You had some graphs there in which you calculated the efficiency. And I was wondering, what formula did you use to come up with those graphs?
Okay, yeah, I forgot to mention, but these are not definitive numbers. It's more of an approximation. So it's what we expect with the efficiency is an inverse exponential growth. So you become closer and closer to peak efficiency through time.
But what did you use? You must have used something to estimate that.
Yeah, well, basically just the numbers we used are just an approximation, an expectation, I mean.
Okay.
Like Leo explained earlier, if you have someone that plays music and someone like in all of those different fields, then it costs you a lot. And then as you have 2 people, you divide by 2. So that is what is an inverted exponential, is that you divide always by 2 by the number of people that you are having. So it's just this formula.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last question. You had on one of your last slides the abbreviation ROE. What does that mean?
Return on investment. So how much time is it?
Okay, and last comment, that social app looks absolutely super, and I give you guys big compliments for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So if anyone has other questions or anything or comments, even.
And please introduce yourself in the beginning, just so we know who you are and we get an idea of who you.
Oh yeah, I'm Charlotte. I'm the one that talks the most.
Well, maybe I could ask a question.
Yeah, no problem.
Maybe I missed it because I joined a little late, but what exactly would be sold, and how do you deal with competition? If someone comes along and sells the same stuff you do, how do you keep the company alive?
Basically, the company focus on project-based development and project-based revenue. So so it's kind of an instantaneous thing. The product we develop are not forever, and we won't have one specific product that will be developed. So competition is not that much of a problem, and since anyway we're going to move toward open access platform, everyone's going to have access to every design and every things that we're going to develop. So it's really going through a more social approach. Everything we design, we're going to give the design for free. So anyone that want to develop it themselves are going to be able to. But
it's important to understand that yes, competition will be there, because as you see, there's the company in the center. It's just since you are multidisciplinary, you have so many projects that even if only one of them works, like we showed how you don't need an exponential growth as usual business models, then it can work. So of course we will have competition, but we think we can compete because we will have people with human power and infrastructure. For example, you want to do an electronic project building a motor controller, then why your motor controller will not compete or at least have a small part of the market share if you have manpower and then you have the infrastructure. And we think that by making people connecting together, they can discuss about the project. And also by not making you work from 8 to 5, this is so inefficient. If people works when they want, and I think we really think, and honestly, I've seen this a lot in science research. Like in the laboratory I'm working, you have no really schedule and you can come anywhere you want, anytime you want, but it's so efficient compared to when I past worked in the industry where you have, it's too, so the competition is there, but we think we can highly be competitive, even if it's open source. Like Google, they are open source, but they still compete. So I think this is how I will complete the answer of Leo.
Okay, thanks. And I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. My name is Yuri. I'm from Brazil. I'm 24. Just another question, if I may. How you said we don't need an exponential growth, but there's some growth to be. I mean, some growth is needed because we have to deal with inflation, right? And the influx of people into this new system. Would that be a problem? Do you see any work around that?
Basically, it's that growth is not absolutely needed. So if sometimes people together decide that we can stay constant, that we don't need to produce more, but that what we produce now is enough to sustain ourselves, we don't need to grow. So we don't necessarily need to have more people coming in. But if it's possible, we think that by itself, the project will generate income and generate things by itself, because anyone doing something will be efficient, will generate revenue, and everything can be monetized, and that's what the capitalism told us. And through that, it's really easy to generate a minimal quantity of income. You don't need that. You don't need more income to come in, because at first we don't have. We own the majority of the company, and after that, it's.
Yeah, and like Jacques Fresco say, only like and like you can yourself understand, like only 5 to 10% of people are really efficient to society. So we think that, and Leo said produce money, but even if you're doing like just social connection, it's indirectly producing money, because you're, for example, making people happy that will work on projects. So yes, you need a certain income, but we think it will be more. And in fact, all the approximation we did them on the lower, because we think it's going to be even more, because we need only 5% of the people, but probably most likely that more than 5% will work on projects and like
be productive.
Be productive monetary wise. And this is away from exponential. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, but just to clarify a little bit, the idea is transition to a resource-based economy, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to automate all industries along the way, and so we need certain amount of growth, I guess, right? Or correct me if I'm wrong, but we need to, if we want to produce new machines, we want to do research, we need to spend time, we need to get more resources, and the way to get resources is to get more money in this society, right? So wouldn't that be a problem?
Yeah, yes, you need a growth, like we said, but the project that people will work on have to be, and what Leo said of not need, it's just, if, for example, the project are producing that amount of money, then you can develop at that pace. But if it produces more, you upgrade more. So it will vary over time. But yes, you will always have an intake. But we really think and believe that just the human power and infrastructure together, for example, yes, you say about building new machines and stuff, but at the first you don't. But as you're increasing, you're building those new machines that they can produce revenue that you can use. So yes, maybe you misunderstood me, but yes, we need a group, but we think that this will not be a problem because you provide accessibility to people.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Definitely. I had a question also, Alexandre and Leo, about the cryptocurrency, because I believe like in a lot of the ideas, it's just like, I think we could, me personally, this is just my opinion, I think we could just move past money and actually go into a resource-based economy if we have the land itself. But regarding the cryptocurrency, how would that work? Because if you think about it, just in my opinion, like money right now, it's an imaginary thing, it's a man-made thing. So people believe in that money, but it has no real value or reference to our resources. So creating or having the idea of a cryptocurrency is still saying, hey, maybe it's not paper, it's in numbers or bits.
Okay. So you misunderstood. So and so there's no cryptocurrency like inside. Like you don't buy anything. You don't have to put a number on anything. The cryptocurrency is from the company to the outside world. So instead of storing the money that the company have into banks, it's you store it in computers, server rooms that can mine cryptocurrency, for example, Bitcoin mining, and then this is how you store your money. But yes, no, we want to move away from, if it's paper or if it's electronic or anything, you want to move away from any individual possessions. And
for sure, I would think Bitcoin would be the best one, especially how it's going right now. So,
maybe not at the start, because yes, you have almost nothing, but as you increase, yes, you go to Bitcoin because you get rid of all the middlemen. Thanks.
Thank you.
So if anyone have other questions?
I do. So probably because I don't have engineering background, so I couldn't catch up all the time. I do economics, by the way. So could you please introduce or briefly introduce the concept in a sentence or two, or just to show us how it works? I mean, the whole concept as a whole. Does that make sense?
Okay, so simply, we're going to build a company that employs people, but instead of paying them high revenue and things like that, it's going to provide for them. So give them access to everything they need, to shelter, to food, and to entertainment through the social connections that are integrated. So
it's basically implementing an RBE system that is isolated, because, we forgot to mention that, like, we think a lot about, oh my God, this system, this monetary system is so big and so have a big inertia. You cannot fight it. But what you can do is start a bubble that is away from it and independent, and that can grow separately by feeding on the monetary system and by slowly removing the money from it. So I just want to add that.
mm-hmm.
So in your society, in your design society, everyone will have the same income?
Okay, so the income is only for the interaction with outside society. So since everyone come with like Charlotte said, all this value system background, they will understand that you don't need money to buy anything. You need something, you just ask it through the app and stuff. But if you want to travel, because traveling is a really important part of life, like discovering the world and stuff, then we live in this world. Like I think it will be really silly to be outside of it. So that's why you will have a minimal sales income to do your expenses outside. And honestly, we've been thinking a lot about that, and we don't see a lot more than traveling. Like, if you guys have any ideas about what people could use their money on outside the society, I don't see what can't we not provide. You want to do boat, then the company have boats at this lake, and then you can go and use them. And we don't see what is except traveling.
At first, maybe like luxury resources, art, and things like that, if you really care about it. Maybe at
the start, but
at the start, but as it goes on, we provide more and more. So,
and also, we have this question a lot, like, for example, if I want to do a collection of, I don't know, beer caps and stuff, this is not resource efficient. But what you do is, like, you have those beer caps, and what you can expose them to an art gallery or something that people can go and see. So it becomes useful what you do by possession, but it's not, you don't possess them. It's more like the resources you use to do your project, which can be art. Yeah, I think it's.
Does anyone else have any questions or recommendations or comments regarding?
Yes, I do. I've got a question. Do you guys have an idea of some sort of time scale on it?
Yeah.
And I might follow this up with another question.
Okay. We think it can be doable, like maybe 2 years from now. Like minimum 2 years from now, because there is still a lot of, like we said, all those pinpoints that we showed you, you can go in details, and we really understand that in order to make it work, you have to design every detail and think about every possible. For example, we did not talk about a lot about decision-making processes, but you can picture it like a scientific method. So you have a council that this is the resources that are available, this is the projects you want to do. How do you decide? So then you have to develop more on that with logical thinking and stuff. So that's why we need time. But then your question is about time and the scale that we will have.
No, the question was on to set up the first bit of it. Do you have some kind of idea how long that would take?
Okay.
And how long do you think before the rest of the world will kind of integrate?
Okay, so like we showed you those 3D printed house design and stuff, they can build a house in 24 hours. So it's not a big time scale that you will need in order to put everything together, because you move away from conventional way of building shelters. Like that can take months. So I really think that in several months you can set up stuff, and then you can start with few people there making it, and then as it grows. And the outside world, we think, because like we say at the start, it's really fragile. Like everyone has to maybe give up some stuff and have a really broad understanding of the Venus project value system. But as you saw, the cost of people will go down, and their influence on the system will go down as well. So as you reach like approximately like 100 people, then you can start adding people that maybe are not as motivated. So we don't need that big scale to include people.
And maybe a scale to include everything. That's really hard to say, because as we move to iterative design and gradual growth, it's really hard to say, because we'll adapt in time for the growth. But we think we could reach the poverty line within 10 years, or maybe even less. It really depends. But for the whole world to join, I think it's impossible to say.
Okay, fair comment. Hi everyone. For the guys that don't know me, I'm Tony. I've got a group, the World Summit, that I work with. We're into uniting people. We don't have a time scale either at this moment in time until we have the numbers, because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game to get change going. The reason is with time scales these days, in the next 10 to 15 years, an educated guess would be that we have another 3 billion people on the planet. That means we're going to have a lot more waste. We're going to have a lot more resources that is going. So sometimes I feel there is a bit of an urgency on getting this off the ground. I'm not trying to sell the World Summit here. Don't get me wrong. But we are trying to connect the disconnected and work together to a common solution, because everybody has part of the solution. As a good friend of mine and Stephanie's and Raoul said, it's like a mosaic. It's not a puzzle anymore, because a puzzle is a set thing. It's a set idea. A mosaic is free flowing. It can be whatever it wants to be. But still, there is a certain kind of urgency there where it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Obviously, we do not want to rush it, because everything that is being rushed is going to fail. But it's something that is really important to think about, because I'm really worried for my kid's future in 20 years' time, when he and she are adults. Because we're going to be really struggling with our resources worldwide. And then if we are still in the monetary system, they will be the ruling class, and that will be done via different means than what they are doing now. That's my worry.
Yeah, but I really agree with that. The only thing I would like to add is I think it's more important to work on a solid base on which everything can build to make it work at any scale, rather than rushing it. But you already said it, so yeah, I agree.
No, absolutely. This is where it's so important that people like all of us here now are together, and we're discussing this because we're all from different backgrounds, but we're all focused on the same goal, and that is, on the end of the day, the sustainability of our planet and everybody on there.
Yeah.
So
definitely. Yeah. Thank you. I agree too. It's really important to do this on a time scale that's not too far, but we have to make this right, because we have a very limited amount of possibility.
Yeah, and there are so many things that can make it go wrong. You have to design so much.
Oh, absolutely, because this is something, what we're all doing here is something that hasn't really happened for a long time. Well, the last time it happened was in the Stone Age, to put it that way. That was a resource-based society. Everybody lived in harmony with nature around it, apart when it came to hunting grounds, but that's a different story. But now we've become a lot more evolved in our thinking. So it should. Oh God, I lost track of mine now. I'm still with the cavemen. Do apologize. It is something new and it's evolving. It's growing. This is where it's so important that we get more people involved, because everybody has a part of the solution and complete this mosaic.
Yeah.
It's really important. Thank you.
Well, I would like to talk about education and this whole timeline process thing.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it, the Venus Project or the Zeitgeist Movement or resource-based economy has no need for politicians, but right now we're controlled by politicians. So like I said in the Discord discussion, I'm aiming for a Trojan horse style attack. That means I'm running for mayor. If I become mayor, that means I should be able to buy shipping containers and put greenhouses everywhere. Make tons of houses, purify tons of water, grow tons of food, and then make houses. I seen 3D printed, it's like a robot arm that 3D prints houses out of sand in the desert.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you just put that on tank treads, carry it anywhere you want to go?
Yeah, this is included in the design.
It's really important too. But basically, any need or mean can be achieved to move this forward. What works, but
no politics. No, we have to move away from that.
Yeah.
Well, my way to move away from politics is to get in politics and destroy it from the inside.
I think maybe it could work, but personally, I don't believe in politics. I believe more like in meanings and in things you do. So if you are doing it yourself and creating this company, I think it's better than try to convince people to do it. It's like you create it and then it's there, and then people can see how it works, and then they can come or not, but they can judge by themselves. So yeah. Okay.
Definitely, I agree with both of those comments, because it's like you almost interconnect it. If you're really thinking about it, almost arranging it in a way where in a few years' time, anything that anyone's doing right now will help this direction in any way, if you really think about it, like in that sense. Because yeah, in your opinion, it may not work that way, but I agree with it to an extent, meaning like maybe we don't have an established plan. Like someone, Marcos, for example, he said, why not build an eco reserve, a hotel of 1,000 houses in a circular city, but on a smaller scale at an island that he's from. And I would suggest like just buy the land. Someone else would suggest something else, but taking all that into consideration, I think they will all interconnect and arrange them in ways that we could actually utilize it for this direction. That's just
I think I want to add, like any solution you come up, if you think it's the solution, then you have to think about every possible details of the interaction of the system you will create. So if you're proposing buying the land, if you're proposing this type of house, then why and what can it bring and how does it will work. It's not about like providing food and shelter. It's about providing food, shelter, and a structure, a value system that people can use. So yes, sorry, thanks.
And of course, if anyone have other comments on the presentation itself or the form we use, it would be appreciated too. If you liked the PowerPoint or not, or things like that, so we can make it better.
Also, I just want to finish with what you said, Jeff, that for example, you will have access to resources and meaning. Then what we have to do is, once all of this design is proven and well understood, then we can use anything we can. So if there are people like you that have access to resources and plots of land, then we can use that and pair it with the structural design of it and then make it happen. So we can use anything we can, and people.
If I may,
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry, Tony. About the presentation, I've uploaded it to the Moving Forward RBE Learning Network page. So if you want to see the presentation again, you can just click on the link and you can view it. You can view it again. So maybe you want to look at that after the meeting, and then you can always give Leo and Alexander some feedback on it afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Could I make a suggestion, if that's all right with everyone?
Yeah.
I once spoke to the Venus Project after a disaster happened in Haiti. I don't know if you guys remembered that. They were struck by all sorts of disasters, cholera and all that. Now, the cost to rebuild that is humongous. And I asked the Venus Project if it may be a good idea to speak to the Haitian government and say, look, this is the cost of how to build a sufficient town, city, or rebuild the place. Unfortunately, I haven't heard anything after that, but I thought that might have been an excellent starting point.
I don't think so, because the Venus Project is really a global thing. So like, even if you just build a city that works, then how can you have an import of resources into your city? Like, every city doesn't produce everything that the city needs. So if they will do that with an interface between the city and the outside world, yes, I think it will work. But the Venus Project, they don't have anything towards an interface. So even if you build a city, then yes, what can you use? People need, for example, guitars or hiking gear. Where do you produce them? With what money do you buy them and stuff? So that's why maybe I think it hasn't been implemented.
I would like to add something. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So basically, the Venus Project is not about city design. It's a mindset. Mm-hmm. So it's not all about city. So see, people in Haiti, they believe in monetary system. So how can you build a money-free society in a place where people believe in money? Just like even if you magically build this kind of city, they will destroy everything because they don't believe in it. They don't understand. Am I making sense? It's not only about city. It's about the way we think. It's about scientific methodology.
Yes.
That it's not all about circular city stuff like that.
And I agree what you're saying, Stephanie. The idea was only to because on the end of the day, it's something that needs to grow. And it like I said earlier, there is a certain kind of urgency to it. We couldn't start waiting for the next 50 years to go to a full transition. By helping out in such a way, it promotes the idea a lot more, and it becomes global. For example, I wanted to start a company myself, and I wanted to put everybody on a fair share. And give them incentives, better incentives than any other company would do, and be equal. And that way I was be able to show other companies, like, this is how we work. You know, this is actually working. We gain the trust and loyalty of the co-workers, and we don't have a great big staff turnover. Now, the same idea would probably work on building a resource-based economy. It is all set by example, and the bigger the example is, the more attention it attracts, the more people will be educated about it.
And also, I would like to answer to you, Stephanie. Like, yes, we know that like Venus Project is about the value system, but I do think that if you provide a conveniency to people, for example, high standard of living and stuff, paired with education on this value system, it can be much more efficient if you have those, for example, circular city and stuff, than forming everyone and hoping for it to happen. So I think both together can be paired. So yes, I think there's a part of the structural design of Venus Project paired with the value system. That's why I kind of disagree with you on that.
I think Andrew wanted to talk right after.
Yes, sorry, I was just jotting down a couple notes here so that I don't lose my place here.
No problem.
Well, there was initially one thing that I wanted to talk about, but as the discussion moved out towards the Venus project, it kind of initiated something else in my mind here. I believe, all right, so as far as I know, everyone who has participated or spoken in this meeting in particular, and it probably would be similar to the other ones, that none of us are actually members of the Venus project, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there is anybody, you know, I guess just send it in the group chat or
I
something.
officially am on paper, formally, but not really doing anything.
Okay, you know, okay, all right, well.
Yeah, but I would just want to say that I don't believe in this Venus Project organization. When I talk about Venus Project, it's about the value system.
Yeah, well, what I am trying to get at is that sometimes, due to a lack of information about what their plans are, we may run into, well, because we don't know that they have a way to address a problem, we assume that that data doesn't exist, and that's. I'm not saying that that's always the case. They may not have an answer for it, but without thorough investigation or research into it, I believe that we shouldn't say that they don't have a plan for such matters. That's just being objective. And like I said, with the shoes or ways to gather resources that are not they're not something that you can possess locally, because I know that's what the city systems are. They want to move production to localization because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You know, they talk about that stuff all the time. It makes sense, but they may have ways to address it. I've never come across it, but at the same time, I've never researched it. So we shouldn't say it doesn't exist. But that's a topic, a broader topic for another time. I'd like to return to where we are here.
Just to answer what you said, of course, you should not say anything that you don't know, that you haven't researched for, but we have researched for their plan of what we're saying.
Well, I know that they have a lot of information kind of locked away too. Like there is information like I know that there are blueprints, like legitimate blueprints, rather than just images of city systems on a much finer detail, and much finer detail, I should say. And
let's just say that we know of, and that's all.
Yeah. So as getting back to what I was going to say initially. I believe, and this doesn't have anything to do with any one particular presentation. I think that in order to generate information that's easily passed around and understood, we should look to try to summarize some of our data and presentations. Now, where I understood the mass majority of what was presented today and with Charlotte's presentation, I believe that when we consider, like, what the common individual can absorb, you know, and also retain, that's also a big thing, because it's common for the average individual to take about 50% of what has been given in a subject, like during a lecture, and then over a period of time, that data is usually lost, and then you're left with another. At the say like 2 months from now, most people are left with about 25% of the data.
Oh yeah.
So I think it would be largely in our benefit to perhaps find a way to standardize our presentation types. And you guys followed like a professional format, you know, like you went all the way through, you know, you had your conclusions and everything at the end. But as far as the data that's within it, we have to because this is a resource-based economy education movement, we have to make sure that we escape that. I don't like this term too much, but echo chamber, you know, where like we all support these ideas. A lot of us understand them a lot. I think that the broader objective should be trying to educate people who don't know anything about this stuff.
Okay, so to answer this, this presentation was really aimed for people like you guys that have all the basic knowledge, like a lot of it, just to share the idea. But yes, we have to work on ways to make people that doesn't know anything about this, and therefore this presentation will be much more different.
Yeah.
Andrew, if I could just break in. I mean, the presentation for this group, it's really just for us, you know, what we're sharing. It's, you know, it's not really for teaching other people.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like if we post it to YouTube, for instance, eventually we can assume that people who are not,
I agree.
They're not up to speed, perhaps. You know, they're going to want to learn. These videos may not necessarily be the best resource if they are very, I would say dense or sometimes complex in the language that we use.
Of course.
I'm not going to try to give myself any kind of pedestal here. I've been professionally educated in public speaking as well as presentations with PowerPoint and things of that nature. And I would be more than happy to share that information with you. Now, of course, I would love it if you guys critiqued any of that data on a later date. But because of my years in the Zeitgeist movement, and before that, you know, of course, working with those in the Venus Project, I felt as though when we got the supporters in, you know, like, oh man, you can go onto YouTube and see this stuff. And Peter Joseph talks in some of his lectures. He uses a very sophisticated type of language. And a lot of the people critique that because they don't understand it the way, you know, he's hoping they will. They need layman's terms sometimes. So I hope that, you know, of course, you know, we don't have to do this immediately. I would love for us all to get on the same page. The last two presentations, Charlotte's and you guys, have been incredibly informative, and I'm very appreciative of the hard work you put in, and you're very well sourced, and everything is very well spoken. I hope that we can expand that sphere of education to people who don't understand quite as much as.
Andrew,
that's why we need people.
Your lecture is the next time, is in 4 weeks. You've got all the time in the world to tell us about it.
And I just want to say that you understood so well what you just say. This is what we say all the time. Like, we need people like you to do outreach. So that's why we have to do really dense and complex presentation in order to people like you, for example, outreacher, because I don't have that much skills in communication as well. So for you guys to understand it and then to process it and then to make people understand it, because this was a really Peter Joseph-like presentation, like with big terms and everything contains so much, but then it's not for general public, and I strongly agree with you on that.
You have to move toward a broader scheme for people to understand.
Like something Stephanie, excuse me, and I have spoken about is that we get sometimes difficulties when we have to sort of customize our conversations with people. You know, like I had this like little blueprint of how I would break down conversations, and she was kind of doing something similar. And we were like, well, it would be incredibly difficult to try to like personally accommodate every single person that we talk to.
But for that, we have thought about something, like maybe you can say what you think about it, but by explaining all of this to several people and see how they react, a lot of time I think, like, I can list out 50 questions that always come back and that can lead to more understanding. So what we could do is like videos, like, I don't know if you know the channel like Chris Gerals in a nutshell, like with animated and interactive stuff. And at the end of the video, you have a series of questions that you can select that you have. and then you have a video answer to this, and then it goes on and on and on. So what you don't understand, you can pinpoint.
Like a tree structure.
Like a tree structure, yeah. So you think it would be a good thing?
Yeah, I would agree. I personally would agree with those points, especially going into the next coming meetings that are coming up forward. It could grow into something way better than it has up to this point, especially as far as we come.
And what I would propose is that like we could like list all the point that needs to be understood like a tree, and then we can ask people to do small videos about it and it works. So then all together we can put this into a platform to educate people about that, and use all for example, people like Andrew that have knowledge in presentation skill and integrate that to it.
Stephanie had a really good idea about that. She developed a knowledge component and a group component where groups and the knowledge, knowledge slash wisdom are interconnected, where they can share their ideas and solutions. That's something you should have a presentation about yourself, Stephanie, to explain that, because that's a really good idea, because you've reached so many more people that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree, especially with what Stephanie and Andrew are working on in the backgrounds, trying to reach different people, different situations. Zane, would you like to go next? If I didn't cut anyone off on that, I do apologize. And we'll see you, Jeff. Have a good day.
Anybody else have anything left to say on Andrew's topic before I start?
I think we were pretty through it.
Okay, cool. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is, or just the two of you, Alexander and Leo, have you guys heard of this app called WeChat that's used in China?
Yeah, I researched it a bit. It's really powerful in those terms, but what you're gonna say?
So if I'm understanding correctly, the app you plan on building has the same concept as far as trying to integrate as much as you can into one platform, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing I'm wondering is, as far as seeing into the future, do you guys see that app eventually becoming an OS or a full-fledged AI to act as the central computer for?
Yeah.
In the large scale, we were even considering making it a product for other cities and things that could be developed. Let's say Toronto or Montreal want to use this app for their society and for their city. They can use it to connect people.
But yeah, do an OS and an exploitation system out of it, so it's more efficient, because like we said, big data processing will be and big data acquiring will be through the app, and if it's not an OS, it will not be efficient. So if you design everything better, yes.
But again, that will come when people that with those particular skills will join.
Yeah.
So with availability of skills.
Okay, fair enough. Earlier you guys were mentioning how you guys don't have a decision-making model yet.
No, we have one.
Or you do have one?
No, but we just don't went through it in the presentation because it's complex and we didn't have that much time. But
okay, never mind then. If you guys are interested, I came up with a decision-making model when I was still volunteering for TVP.
I would like to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not a perfect model. It has its holes, but it's better than anything I've been able to find on the internet, anything that I've experienced in the Army or any
awesome.
So.
Yeah.
So then we can work together to improve it and show you what we have and see what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, of course. This is about this before everything else. This is about sharing our knowledge and taking the best out of everything.
Okay, so yeah, well, whenever you guys have a chance, I'll give you guys the Google Drive.
Definitely.
Yeah, please.
We'll keep on contact, and, of course.
Okay. Let's see, what was the other thing? Yes, did you guys consider, I'm pretty sure you did, even though you didn't mention it, but did you guys consider the governmental factor? What I mean by that is, okay, you can have a city tomorrow, for example, right? Let's say you've grown the population to 2,000. I don't know the exact number you'll need to become a threat, but eventually you become a threat to the system, right? So unlike this is, if you've gone through Jacques' lectures, you know, you understand or you'll notice a lot of the contradictions, because on one hand he talks about how you don't have a resource-based economy if you still have militaries and stuff like that, right? But on the other hand, in the transition, you need them. Otherwise, you'll be taken out.
No, you don't need a military.
Well, you don't necessarily need a military. I mean, conceptually speaking. So for
yeah.
if you were to ask me, for example, if I had to design the city, right? From a weapons engineering standpoint, I wouldn't even have soldiers. I wouldn't have any of that. I'd simply have I try to develop the most advanced laser weapons I could, possibly design that could take out anything that this current system has, right? I don't want to go too much into detail about what weapon systems are good or not, but the overall point I'm trying to make is, this building or using the corporation method to start a city is fine and all, but there's two ways of going about protecting yourself or protecting that city. Is one, you make your corporate model just like other corporations that are already in existence now, where you maximize your profit so that you can basically have political influence almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you don't want to do it that way and don't get involved in politics, then you kind of have to have some kind of defense system.
Yeah.
But so it's more the first that you say. There are two answers to that. So yes, you do exactly a corporate model, and as you become a multinational, this is why it's so, oh my God, it's so important to become multinational before you become a threat to a specific government, because then you have political influences on this. We have to move away from military and any kind of forces. Maybe, but there was a discussion. It's not clear. It's like a gray zone. For example, computer people, hackers or stuff like that, and build software security. I think we may need that, but this is a completely different discussion.
Yeah, and of course, at a certain point, we're gonna have to need some kind of influence. If we ever grow to a point that we reach influence and we become a threat, we're gonna have big coverage, and people are gonna see what we're doing.
Information,
information, and it's going to be quite important to have a social platform to make people understand what we're doing and what is going on in the city. And it's going to be open access, but in order to the scale of a country, I think we have to convince everyone, even the politicians and things like that, that what we're building is better than what there is. And if we arrive to the point that we convince enough people, the transition is gonna do themselves.
Yeah, but there is a possibility that, like the monetary system is really strong. So there is a possibility that, I don't know, they hack everything and then they tear everything down. But if we do enough documentation, then people can have access to that and see, well, it was working. And but yeah, we don't really have answers to that. There's a possibility that everything is.
Okay, well, if the discussion ever comes up again in your future endeavors, if you were to ask me the best weapon system you can have is AI or hacking, for example. So let's say if you ever were under threat, if you had a powerful enough AI that could hack the entire planet at the same time, then you could just disable all your enemies and you don't have to worry about killing anybody. But that's a discussion for another time. So.
Yeah, like we said, security and hacking, it's a gray zone. I agree with you.
Right. Okay, so the last thing I want to mention is not a question, but to something you said earlier, Andrew, about TDP having a plan. It's a semantic issue. It depends on what you mean by a plan. Because from everything that I've seen and I've seen the damn blueprints myself because I've been to the compound enough times. The analogy I was going to make to you is, I'm sure many of you guys have seen this meme, is there's a guy in a hole, right? I'm sorry, there's not a guy in a hole. There's a guy on one side of the wall. And he has a ladder sitting next to him, and he doesn't know how to get over the wall because he doesn't know how to use the ladder, right? So in other words, if TVP has, any solutions to anything, it would be, one, it'd be derived from Jacques, but two, Roxanne doesn't know how to use them. As far as what I've observed from working with them for the time that I did. And don't get me wrong, this is not something to say that Roxanne doesn't know what she's doing. She has her specific expertise, especially when it comes to architecture, because that's what she did for many years. But as far as I can tell, she doesn't know what she's doing in the other areas that she needs to, as far as coming up with any relevant ideas to push forward a transition model of any kind. So,
yeah, that's what we say. The Venus project, they don't have anything for transitions.
Well, we don't know of anything. That
We don't know of anything.
oh, one thing I do know. So, that doesn't mean I can prove it to you definitively unless you want to go through a shit ton of chat logs. But
yeah, I think that as well.
Right. So, but I guess my overall point is don't put your faith in in an organization that has been in the same spot for the last decade.
We absolutely don't.
No.
Right.
We
and just like you were saying earlier, Alexander, the only thing that you want to take from them is the concepts that Jacques tried to put out there.
Exactly.
So
when we talk about the Venus project or any other project, we just talk about the ideas, because we really don't hope to recreate the patterns they are creating and the organization that they have. It's really just the ideas and the concept that they put forth.
Like all their work, just except for the transition model.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I that was going to end there, but I have one last thing to say, which is people already know this, that education is key. Some people don't realize how important it really is. One of the things I've learned over time in the RBE community is how many people who claim to support an RBE but don't know jack shit about science, don't know anything about logic, formal logic. I'm talking about logical fallacies, categorical syllogisms. They have not been educated to a level where you can reason with them yet. You still have to emotionally manipulate them in order to get them to understand anything.
Oh my God, yes.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it depends on what angle, but
right. You might have had a different experience.
I've had a lot of different experiences.
Maybe.
But I don't know. Emotional. An argument via pathos is definitely not really a constructive one. And like we mentioned this. I mentioned this in a prior meeting. I don't know if you were there for that or not. You look to me to be a new face, but I talked to individuals about discussing what it is at a root causal level that makes them feel why they do about the way things are organized in society. So, and it sometimes can take a little bit, but I highly suggest individuals in here do a little bit of research on Rogerian argument, which is making sure that those whom you are communicating with understand that their concerns are important. Like when I've talked to a few people about this recently, there are many resource-based economy advocates or activists on social media who, rather than constructively try to engage in conversation with people who don't agree with them, say people who believe in capitalism, for instance, as being the most efficient system that we can create, rather than trying to break those types of arguments down, they just attack them over and over and over again. And what that does is entrench people. So like when I talk about root causal root causation and the way somebody thinks, I might talk to a Republican and they're like, or a conservative, same thing in the United States almost. They want the government to play a decreasing role in the way people live their lives. And, the right wing might attack social programs that help poor people in order to justify those types of views. Really, those people, when you talk to them, they're like, we just really don't like the way the government acts. There's a lot of corruption there. If you talk to them about really where those corruption or those corrupt tendencies lie at a root causal level, you have a much stronger chance of being able to address the technical solutions that are people like ourselves, those who support a resource-based economy, have. We have much more of a chance of talking to them. So I think most people have the reasoning and logic. I won't say that the education level in the United States is great. I definitely know that there has been a dumbing down here, but people still have that reasoning skill. And it, like Jacques would have said, almost everybody is really considered a scientist. You go to a store, you know, down the road, and you're like, what would be better for me to purchase? You know, what they think, well, I need a pack of staples, or I need a pencil sharpener. And then they think to themselves, all right, well, what is the value of this? What will do me the most good? What is it that needs to be gotten more immediately? And when you break things down into that, you're like, well, maybe if we have to consider the economic model, you know, for the conservatives in America, like what causes the government to do such corrupt things? They don't exist within a vacuum. Then people are like, well, holy crap, like you just kind of blew my mind. And I've blown many minds, I'd say. I would say I've still got a long ways to go in discussing things like that with people. But taking it down to that root cause is really just the most efficient, in my personal opinion, most efficient way of communicating.
But I have a question for you and Andrew. Like we also have discussed a lot of people, and sometimes we always do what you say, like going to roots and try to make them understand how it works and what are the flaws and everything, and then go into details and they ask questions. And at the end of the day, I feel like throughout the discussion, they don't remember what you said. So then you try to make knowledge and then build on the top to bring a new point, and then as a pyramid, but then they forget the basics, and then their emotions come in, and then they feel attached because they don't understand the root causality. How can you deal with that?
Well, see, I've got like some really awesome textbooks and stuff that I could cite for you, stuff that I pulled out of my bookshelf here that I've been taking classes for this in college. One of the key elements to being able to make sure that the most important part of your discussion is what is retained is repetition. So we discussed that over a period of time, that 100% of the data that they might have absorbed, after 2 weeks turns into 50% of what you've told them, and after a month or two may turn into 25% of that initial discussion. Well, the importance of repetition cannot be overstated. So like when you're, say, writing a professional level essay, everyone probably knows what a thesis statement is. It's what your objective is in your essay. Well, there's a thesis statement in a presentation too. At the beginning, you want to state what the objective is. So when you state the objective, you also give what's called a hook, which is like, this is what's going to draw you in. This is what's going to like make you interested. Once you got that laid down, the thesis and your objective is going to be brought up within the body and within the conclusion as well. So it's going to be the most repeated thing that you bring up when you talk about somebody. And it doesn't have to be a 10-page paper. It can be a 5-minute conversation. The point, is to try to make sure that the most valuable part of that data is what is being repeated, so that they have a better chance of retaining it.
Okay, thanks. I really appreciate all of this information, and we definitely need people like you.
Well, I'm no genius. I've got a long ways to go, but I would love to share this stuff with you guys if you're interested.
Definitely.
I think it goes back to the point of what you and Stephanie are working on, getting to the root cause. But at the same time, going into the next meeting with Tony, I think, if I'm not mistaking the next meeting, I think it's with Tony with the NVC, non-violent communication. So I think that's going to be a good topic to actually go into.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to that one too.
Andrew,
I'm glad you guys are, because I'm bricking it.
Say that again?
I says I'm glad you guys are, because I'm bricking it.
But I want to add a point that I think that we don't need to convince so many people, and that at this point, it's really not about that. It's about, I think that what we need now is building and convincing, not convincing, but letting them decide for themselves, see what it's about, and decide and understand for themselves what's best for them and what's working.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, I want to address some of the things you said. Before I do, first I want to ask you, do you know what street epistemology is?
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to duck out here because I've been sick for the past couple of days, and I see that this is gonna go on a lot longer than I had thought. So I'll watch the rest of the video when it's uploaded. And thanks everyone for being here.
No problem.
And see you later.
Good night to you.
See you, Shadow.
Okay, bye bye.
See you.
Okay, back to you, Zane. What were you saying?
Love.
All right,
Zane?
all right, good. So yes, do you know what street epistemology is, Andrew? Or have you heard of the term? If you don't,
Okay. No, I mean, all right. I'm not incredibly well versed on all of the specific definitions.
I'm not trying to discredit you. That's not my.
I mean,
I'm just asking a simple question. It's either yes or no.
okay. Well, could you just define that for me? It's likely something I've gone over, but
it has to do with getting down to the root cause of what you were talking about. It's a specific way of talking to people on the street about atheism, in particular. But instead of talking to them about atheism, all you're doing is asking them about their beliefs in a non-attacking manner to get down to their root belief of a larger system in their religion, and then you can get them to think about a different perspective on that root belief. That's not what I was trying to get into. The next question I was trying to ask, or was going to ask, is if you don't mind me asking, where do you live? What state or country or whatever?
I live in the United States. I'm on the East Coast in the state of Virginia.
Okay, so that's kind of halfway south. Okay.
So what's?
Okay, so the points I want to try to make to you is that earlier you described a hook, right?
Mm.
That's an emotional manipulation tactic. So it's a way of phrasing your point to engage the audience. But the other point or the larger point I'm trying to make is, sure, you may have had successes in your, I guess you could say, trials to try to convince people about X, Y, and Z. But not for one, not the rest of us may not have the exact same experiences. Two, you have to control for factors like where you live, the kind of people you're dealing with, the culture in your area. So if you came to where I live, for example, and the people that I have to deal with, I definitely did not have that experience. But the last reason I want to justify what I was saying earlier of why you have to emotionally manipulate people, or why education has to be delivered in an entertaining manner, is because of the science behind it, or why public speaking and things like pickup artistry work. And it's because, according to the science, the frontal cortex shuts down when the emotional part of the brain, the limbic system, is attacked, right? This is why when you attack someone in an argument of any kind, right, they all of a sudden start defending themselves, make no fucking sense at all while they're doing it. And no matter how much logic and reason you spew at them, they can't grasp it. And it's not because they don't have the ability, it's not because they don't care about you, it's not because they're a bad person, it's literally because they lost access to their frontal cortex within that moment, because that's what the stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline do. So knowing that, right, I don't want you to dismiss so easily that emotional manipulation is what's needed for a lot of the masses, until you give them the tools to reason past manipulation. So for example, just a few years ago, if you didn't talk to me in a certain way, I didn't take you seriously, especially if you sound like an asshole. Now you can call me whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. I will only take the substance of what you're saying because I have the tools to reason, the tools to past any emotion you put into what you're saying. You see what I'm saying? So, but without those tools, the average person will shut down on you, like you said, if you attack them. So that's what I want to say about what you commented.
I think that's excellent.
And if you guys want me to forward you guys the studies that basically show what I'm talking about the frontal cortex, it's only like 2 pages long. It's not a long read. I can put that in the
No, yeah. Just one last thing is that sometimes it's sad because people feel attacked not because you attack them directly, just because of their ideas on a certain subject. So what you just said is really relevant in those cases, to give them the tools to go past emotional reasoning. I think that's, thank you.
Also, Andrew, later you said a particular method. Was it the Rogerian arguments?
Yes.
Okay, I'll research that for sure.
Yeah, and just to kind of go back to the hook conversation. The hook in my personal, as a personal definition, and the way that I've used it in my writings and in my speaking, has just been a general point of interest, not necessarily an emotional, joust.
I think I should clarify. I don't mean emotional manipulation in a negative connotation as most people take it. I actually mean it as just a tool.
Yeah. Well, it was really just the saying that the majority must, it made it sound as though there was this one thing that we were saying it works almost all of the time or should be working all of the time, and where I add humor, that would be considered an emotional manipulation. And manipulate itself, just in our culture, I guess, has a negative connotation to it. So, yeah.
I think you're saying basically the same thing, both of you, almost.
Yeah, I have to clarify what I mean, because a lot of the stuff I say, people interpret as, well, let me just get the disclaimers out of the way. Whenever I say something, right, I'm not trying to say that this is how you should do things. I'm simply saying that this is what I found out based on the research I've done and the experience I have.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I don't try to discredit you. I simply try to either present a counter argument or give you information you may not have and see if you still come to the same conclusion.
Yeah. We also have to factor in what type of conversation we're having, whether it's with a group of people or with a singular individual. Those types of things get redrawn all the time. So.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, guys. I just wanted to clarify. Nicholas had a question about the presentation.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. It was actually 2 questions, but I think they're relatively short.
No problem.
As there are some new faces, I'll also really quickly introduce myself. I'm Nicholas. I'll be studying robotics and automation starting September. This week I got the official offer and accepted it, so I'm happy about that. And I really enjoyed this presentation. It really resonates with me. It's really in the same direction that, I can see the thought process is really well thought of, and it's really similar to mine. So I really appreciate you guys. Short feedback on the presentation was maybe try to make it a bit more visual and tidy. Especially the one thing that I really didn't get so well was the graph. The scheme on how money comes in from the outside and how it's managed, it seemed to be a bit,
okay.
I don't know. I found that a bit difficult to understand, but the rest I think was really good.
Yeah.
And to me, it wasn't sophisticated. So at least for me, I understood a lot of the more technical stuff. So good job on that, guys.
Regarding the scheme, I think you should look at it back and carefully and try to see, and then you can ask questions, because yes, it's dense and it contains a lot of information.
But we, of course,
I think that's mostly why. I think it was quite complex, and maybe just viewing it maybe a bit slower with it. But maybe that's just me. That's fine.
And we plan to write more documentation. You have the scheme, and then you have documentation that explain it point by point. Because, like we said, in a one presentation, it's really hard to make all of this be understood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, and your time was limited too. So I think you did a really good job. So the 2 questions were, the first one.
Go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, go.
Oh, okay. So the 2 question was, the first one was, I was just curious on the point of view, how you manage people as in the residents. so in nowadays society, if you want to eat, if you want food, if you want your meal, you've got to have money to buy that. So you've got to have a job. And if anything breaks in that chain, you don't get to eat. So I was wondering, when you've got like a kind of foundation and like, how can you say, when you've got a certain amount of people living there, and it's to the point where some people can kind of like, they could stop working, they could stop contributing, and everything would be fine, but it would just slow the process down. Or for example, if it gains a lot of traction and it gets a lot of attention and you have too many people wanting to join and to live there, my question would be, how would you manage that? Like what's your view on that?
Okay, so Leo, maybe you can complete me just first introduction. We kind of answered this question previously. Is like we say, just 5 to 10% of what people do will be needed in order to make it work. So the smallest amount of resources you produce can feed a lot of people. Like if you buy in big bulk, you save so many resources, and as you go through efficiency, you can feed easily everyone. So I don't think that would be a problem. But like you say, it's through the app also. You can do it.
Of course.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure there were no conditions like you can join, but then if you stop working, then you're kicked out or something.
No.
So
No,
okay, I just wanted to know if that was the case. Or
Past a certain point, past a certain point, for sure, it's not going to be a problem. At the start, of course, if we're 5 people and 4 people decide don't work, it's not going to work. But at the start, it's going to be maybe we're going to face more hardship for sure. But as we grow, it's going to be more stable and more complete. Of course, we're going to focus. One of the first core things we have to focus on is food production and things like that ourselves. But of course, and for when you say that too many people want to apply, it's still a company, so there are gonna be interviews and things like that in order for people to
at the start.
At the start for people to join.
Okay, so there'd be a selection kind of process.
At the start.
Just at the start. Like once you reach a certain point, then
I understand.
Okay, perfect.
Of course. Yeah, once you've got abundance, then you can get more people in. Okay, the second question, I think this is even shorter, is so you mentioned how the app, for example, you used the example if somebody wants to cook for 5 people, they make a request to the app, and you said the resources get approved. So I'm guessing once you have an abundance of resources, something so trivial like cooking dinner for 5 people would just be automatically approved. But I'm just wondering, whilst there is scarcity within the environment, how would that be managed? How would the decision be made? Would it be a person or the group making it, or would it be AI? Or how do you see that?
Small scale, it's going to be decided through, like we said, a console. But for things like meals and things like that, it's not that.
You're gonna move away from scarcity at the very start, even just from 2 to 4 people for food. But like for big project, you want to create a cyclotron to accelerate particle. I don't know. We don't have these resources right now. We cannot do it.
Yes. So, but the question would be: so if you have the resources, but like you have multiple requests to access those resources, what would be the priorities? Like, would you prioritize something? Like, would you see what fits into better to the plan to transition, or I don't know.
It's going to be a system approach. So really, it's going to be about what motivates people and how much traction does a particular project gains. So if a lot of people are interested by a project and show motivation toward that project, it's preferred to others. So it's really give liberty and control to people.
And you can always like challenge if you don't agree with the decision. And if you go through a logical thinking, then you cannot disagree. You bring point by point your argument and see why and how it could benefit more people. And as you go, like you said, you move away more and more from scarcity. So yes, at the start, some sacrifices will be.
It's mostly in the more vulnerable stage of the project I was interested in. So yeah. Okay, thank you. That was it. Great job again, guys, and thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. If Eddie, Yanni, Roberto, PD, Matt, Steve would like to, Alexander would like to suggest or recommend or have any questions, please.
Or comment or anything.
Or comments, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I do think we're going to maybe have to work from within the system to defeat the system, like you're doing here. Do you have you started to think about the different products that people will be making in this system? Have you gone that far to lay out the different occupations people will be working at and the products? I was just wondering about that a little bit, and also about hemp. You know, industrial hemp being the most amazing resource we have, where you can make, you know, clothes and building products and plastics and food and on and on. You were restricted a little bit now in this country, but in other countries in Europe, I know it's, you know, it's legal to produce hemp, and it would seem like a good place to do this and a good resource to use. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's just something I was thinking about.
Okay, so I think the utilization of hemp will be strongly recommended, because us too, we read about it, and it's such a great resource that we have to use. Yeah. It's cheap and it grows and it's eco-friendly, and that's why maybe prefabricated hemp house would be the way to go. Mm-hmm. But at the start, it's not cost efficient.
And not just that, but we have to stay in, being a company, we have to stay in the legal boundaries of the country we're living in, and the things like that. So we don't have that much freedom on the control of laws and things, but that really goes through the choice of nation and environment that you put yourself in. So
plus the idea of project you're talking about, you can review the presentation. We give some examples of those, and anything literally you can think about, even for example, Andrew we're talking about all these discussion things, and you can make online courses about this and benefit people, while other people can produce music, while it can be like engineering project, it can be art project, it can be food production, software development, literally anything. And like we said at the start, yes, we will have to work towards project to make money, but once you reach a certain point, it's just to work on project, and if appears it's possible to make money out of it, then we give you the resources to make it if you want. And
maybe a point that we forgot to make clear was that while living the society, what you work on and what you do is used by the company, and technically is its possession, but it's shared possession for the people living in the company, but it's monetized by the company.
If you can produce an abundance, I mean, rather than just produce as much as the company needs there, if you can produce an abundance, then it can be sold to, you know, surrounding neighborhoods, community at a lower price. And
for an example, when we start growing our own food, having automated hydroponic systems to produce vegetables and fruits, well, all that's not used is sold and is transformed in terms of currency. And if that's not possible, we just give it away. But as soon as we have abundance, as you said, we really gain something out of it.
That's why two things are important. First, you have to be not isolated in the far away from the wood, so you can sell your product to surrounding cities and neighborhood. So that's why it's super important to be close to a big city, or at least civilization. And also, since we explained how people will cost less and less, the profit margin you have to do can be really low. For example, you build a table and then you sell it for $50 and it costs you $40 to do. We don't care. You don't need that much big profit margin, just anything, because it costs almost nothing to do. Because we don't pay you.
Would you like to see this started, the first one, in a smaller
we're having
community instead of a city?
Could you rephrase?
Yeah, I'm losing.
Could you rephrase it?
I just wonder what size of town.
Okay.
So about the size, it's like we said, you start with like between 4 to 20 people.
To get it going in a smaller community
He's going in and out, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. My internet's failing.
But like we said, any precise thing you have on the presentation or question or challenge, just write a note about this particular topic and send it, and then we can share information and build on the top of it. I think it will be really efficient.
Thank you.
And we will put time into answering properly.
Thank you. All right.
I think you already had questions too.
Yes, true. How is the company managed? And excuse me if you already talked about it in the beginning of the presentation, but
No
how is
problem.
the company managed, and are there any top positions? And if so, how do you prevent corruption?
Yeah, no, there's no top position. I mean, like we often give the example of CEO or business people. If there are business people that understand the value system of business project, but they just like doing business, then they can do business, but they know that everything they produce is not directly for them. So as soon as you remove individual property, then you have no higher position. No one has a higher living standard than anyone.
And two, the open access factor, that everything is open source and everyone has access to every decision that was made, every discussion that was had about something. So every decision really come to a process of through the people and through the decision system. So corruption really is harder to happen if you have open access to information and to decision processes.
And yeah, and since you remove any advantage you can have from possessing something, then why would you possess something?
No.
Okay, so basically everything is shared. So it doesn't matter what you do, you receive the same care as everyone else. So basically people would be in a position of CEO, let's say, because they actually care about it. But they don't gain anything from hiding things and getting extra money.
Exactly.
Okay, so, all right. So my second question is, do you plan on testing this in a smaller scale? I don't know if it works in a smaller scale.
No.
You were talking about it. It's kind of complicated, but do you think it's possible to test it, and do you plan on testing that before actually taking it to the next level and building it?
Yeah, the entire design of this presentation is about that. Is about starting at a small scale, like we say, from 5 to 20 people. And expand, and then learn from what you see and see how the business model go, how the architecture, all the technical specification goes, and then update on that. So if we think that if you don't do what you just said, it's most likely to fail.
And of course, it can be started with 2 to 4 people even. It really can start. It's just a kind of hierarchy that has to be implemented, and then no matter the number of people that you have, it can grow from there.
I don't understand your hierarchy thing.
Not hierarchy, but environment more. It's an environment that you have to implement, and then
set of structural interactions.
Yeah, okay. And after that, it can grow from any sizes.
Is that answering your question?
Yeah, I think so. So it's basically testing as you go, right? It's basically
iterative design.
Yeah. Okay. It's a good answer. So thank you, and
thank you so much. And I think Matt had a question.
Yeah, and Alexander too.
Ralph.
Yeah.
Ralph.
Alexander, you said you had a question.
Yes, I have a question. How do you prevent the company from going bankrupt?
Okay, so basically, what bankruptcy is that you lose mean to produce. Why a company bankrupt is because of the I like the term, but
the needed for exponential growth.
Yeah, that's it. So it's because of the actioneers, les actionnaires in English.
I don't know.
Someone that passes the actions of the company, that asks for exponential growth because they want to make profit. So the first thing that we made clear is that we're going to free ourselves from external possession of the company. That's a kind of a challenge, because for you have to have funds, and the only way of a company to have funds is to sell actions and to give away part of it to people that invest in it. But we really think that as soon as it's implemented, it's possible to free yourself from those investments. And as soon as that goes, you don't have need for exponential growth. You don't need to make a profit for people that have a part in it. And that saves us from bankruptcy. Yeah, stocks, excuse. Not actions, it's in French, but stocks. Stockholders, yeah.
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 Wow.
It does sound vague to me.
Yeah, but maybe we could discuss it more in depth. It's I like the knowledge to talk about, not the knowledge, but the terminology to talk about economic in other languages than in French. I really have no knowledge of terminology in economics and capitalism point of view, but I'll write something and work on translating it, and maybe it will be more clear.
Okay.
Clearer, yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. I just wanted to clarify, because we're going on like 2 hours now, which is fine. If anybody has any last questions, so this doesn't go any longer, I don't want to like intrude, or we don't want to intrude on anyone's life that needs to go for any reason. Please do so. But if you have any quick questions, briefly, please discuss that.
And anyway, you just, if you have something else, write it down
for us, and send a message to us, and we'll be open to discuss it with you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I would like to say that in regards to what was Andrew and Zane saying, it is like about the root causes and all the stuff that they were saying. It is like you go to you hit the gym, and you talk to some I don't know, man or a woman in the gym, and you say to them you ask them what causes pump, and some of them will say to you just that it is caused by blood that is pumping into a muscle, and it causes that you feel like pumped up. Okay, it is and some of them will tell you that it is caused by L-arginine alpha ketoglutarate, right? Yeah, you know, and so it is just a point that some people are more educated and some people are not. And when you say to them about RBE, it is strange sometimes, because you feel like talk to a moron, all right, and they just believe in what is now capitalism, like police riots on the streets. I don't know, maybe food that is poisoned. I don't know. They don't believe in hyperloops. They don't believe in that there will be no money in the future. They don't believe in anything. They just see what is now. So Andrew and Zane was saying that it was very important thing that they were saying. Yeah, and you were also thing about frequently asked questions, right? So there's a lot of videos in the internet, like what is the Venus Project? Venus Project is blah 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 blah. So we could, I don't know if it resonates with you, but we could like create some channel on YouTube and do some, I don't know, maybe also funny videos, but that presents concepts of the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement, all of the RBE stuff. So it will be like some kids playing around, and the narrator says that the Venus Project is the world without corruption, world without something, without I don't know, brutality, and stuff like that. So yeah, we could maybe create some things like that. And I'm sorry for my English.
No problem. But yeah, I think it's an important factor to achieve to synthesize those information in order to make easy to understand.
But I think we said that already. We are starting repeating ourselves. So
yeah, with the tree structure and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there is great work to do regarding that, and I hope we will be able to work together toward that.
Yeah. So I think for the rest, you should write down your questions, because I think people will want to go.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Everyone's time, and thank you so much to Leo and Alexander for that presentation. It was amazing. And if you want to continue the discussion, please go to Discord. You don't have to type it out, but you could voice talk. There's text message, and then below there's voice. So it'd be in the voice one that you could keep the discussion going regarding this topic and this presentation. We just don't want to like intrude on anyone's time, especially if it's 2 hours. We're still trying to figure out what the time limit is. For me, I would love to keep this going on like all day, every day, have it live. But that's just my opinion. And yeah. Okay, so I will go. So thanks for everyone.
Yeah, thank you all, and have a good day. Maybe we're going to talk later on Discord, but for now, I got to go eat. I'm really hungry. So have a good day. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Yeah, the world definitely needs more economic experiments like you guys are planning. So, thank you.
Thank you too.
Next meeting. Thank you so much, everyone.